Fire departments face numerous health and safety hazards every day. Some of the most dangerous and life-threatening situations come when the very air they breathe turns deadly. These situations include being exposed to heat, smoke, toxic gas, and oxygen-deficient environments. If you doubt the quality of air that you're exposing yourself to in any way, you need to wear a respirator, also known as a self-contained breathing apparatus, to protect yourself. There are a number of precautions that employers must take to ensure that firefighters are protected. These can be found in OSHA 29 CFR 1910.134. If you work in a fire department and have a job that requires you to wear a self-contained breathing apparatus, then you must complete an annual training. That training will cover the written respiratory protection plan for your department, cover inspection, cleaning, storage, and will also include demonstrating a proficiency in using the gear. Before that training takes place, there's a few things we should review. First, the written respiratory protection plan that we just mentioned has to be specific to the individual department because it goes along with your equipment and departmental needs. However, each plan needs to contain the following. One person who is responsible for the program. This person will administer and oversee all aspects of the plan. The specific type or types of self-contained breathing apparatus used. Medical evaluations for all persons who will wear the SCBA. Fit testing for each person. This is to make sure the unit fits a person's face properly. Procedures on how to use the SCBA, when to use the SCBA, procedures on how to clean, store, and inspect SCBAs, maintaining the self-contained breathing apparatus gear, following all of the manufacturer's recommendations. The program must also outline the initial training and the annual training that follows it. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but this part of your job is that important, not only to you, but to the people you help every day. Now, before we get to that refresher training, let's take a look at a few points on that list. The first is the medical evaluation. Here are a few of the factors that are considered. Type and weight of the respirator, duration and frequency of respirator use, temperature and humidity extremes, additional protective clothing and equipment, and expected physical work effort. Wearing any respirator, including an SCBA, is quite taxing on a cardiovascular system. Add to that full turnout gear, and it can be quite a burden to the wearer. Therefore, at regular intervals, wearers must be evaluated by a physician or another licensed healthcare provider. These evaluations must be performed on the following schedule. Up through 35 years of age, you're reviewed every 5 years. From ages 36 to 40, you will need to be evaluated every 2 years. And for employees over 40, reviews will be done annually. Now remember, these evaluations are in place for your safety. Now, what's the actual process of the annual review? First off, a medical questionnaire will be given to all employees who wear a self-contained breathing apparatus. The employer will then mail these questionnaires to the healthcare provider who reviews them. This care provider either sends them back a clearance stating that the member is able to wear the gear, or they can order additional testing to ensure that this individual can wear the equipment safely. Once the proper clearance has been received, the employer can then start the fit test on the employee. On a side note, remember to keep all medical clearances on hand. Now, the last point on that screen mentioned fit testing. Fit testing must be performed annually to ensure that the SCBA fits the wearer properly and no toxic gases are allowed to get underneath the face mask. All fit testing must be done after the medical clearance is given. The test can be qualitative or quantitative. It's up to the chief to decide which is a better fit test protocol for his or her employees who will be using the breathing apparatuses. The test must be specific as to the type and size of the facepiece to be worn. The test cannot be performed if the user has facial hair that might come between the sealing surface of the mask and the face. This is regardless of whether or not the user can obtain the seal. And like everything else, the fit test needs to be documented. Here is Captain Brent Melvin of the Brewer Fire Department performing a recent fit test.
Here at the Brewer Fire Department, we use a qualitative fit test versus a quantitative. For the qualitative fit test, you need to make sure that the wearer of the mask can actually taste the product you're going to use. So we'll give it a little puff. We typically use saccharin if Eric can taste it.
I can.
Now we'll have Eric put his mask on. And he just checked to make sure he had a negative seal. And called a T-bone. It's commercially available with the fit test kit. Locks into his mask. We apply a hood to contain the fit test solution. 10 or 12 puffs of that in there. In the first part of the test, he just breathes normally for 60 seconds. The next test is deep breathing. Don't breathe too fast, just take nice deep breaths. While we're doing this, it's important to keep good records. We take a pretty simple form and document every test. Fit test protocol we use is the OSHA Regulation 29 CFR 1910.134. All right. Can you taste anything?
I cannot.
Very good. Put a little more in there. Okay, the next one, you breathe normally, turn your head from side to side. After that, you taste anything?
I cannot.
Very good. Now nod your head for 60 seconds, up and down. The next test is talking out loud. Generally, there's a couple of options. The rainbow passage is one, or you can just have them recite the alphabet a couple of times. So why don't you do the alphabet?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
And the next test, I'll have you sit down. Just kind of lean forward like you're looking down a hole in the ground. All these tests are designed to mimic any of the movements or actions you might do during the course of your work. And the final test is another 60 seconds of breathing normally. Sit back and relax. And the last test we do, you just take the T-bone off. Taste that?
I can.
Very good. When the test is finished successfully, we both sign it, myself and the individual I'm testing, and date it to document that it was successfully completed.
It's essential that your gear work the way it's supposed to when you need it. For that reason, regular inspections of your SCBA are necessary to make sure that this gear is in ready condition and safe to wear. These inspections shall be performed weekly for full-time departments and monthly for volunteer or paid on-call departments. Whether the inspection is monthly or weekly, it has to follow the manufacturer's checklist or recommendations. The inspections will cover the cylinder's condition, the hydro test date of the cylinder, and confirmation that it is at least 90% full, meaning the needle must be in the green. The inspection will also cover the condition of the backpack and harness system, the personal alert safety system device operation, examination of all working parts like the regulator and bypass, and it's important that any individually assigned face pieces are inspected and documented. The last thing is to make sure that all packs and masks are stored properly following the manufacturer's recommendations. There is also a flow test that needs to be performed to the specifications of the manufacturer. The frequency of these inspections is usually annually, but the specifications should come with the unit. If you're unsure on its frequency, contact the manufacturer. Okay, so here's what we've done. We've checked on the written plan, received medical clearance, done the fit testing, inspected our SCBA, and ensured that the flow test is up to date. Now we can move on to our annual refresher training. So you know what's required for the annual training. Here's a look. First, there will be a review of the written plan that will include how to effectively use the respirator, including times when it malfunctions. Then a review of the capabilities and limitations of the self-contained breathing apparatus. You'll need to know how to inspect, clean, and store the unit. Next, you'll need to understand how improper maintenance, fit, and use can compromise the effectiveness of the SCBA. You will also need to be able to recognize medical signs and symptoms that might limit or prevent proper use. You must review your own department's specific written respiratory protection plan. And finally, wearers of this gear must demonstrate donning and doffing proficiency skills to a standard set by the chief of the department.